I will I would love to introduce to you our CEO, Dr. Lisa Andrew, and she will kickstart the evening tonight.
All right, well, welcome everyone. And I, along with Bea, thank you for being with us and on what might have been a pretty long Thursday for you. We at SVF are dedicated to ensuring that there's equitable spaces, equitable conversations, places where we can talk about how we are going to ensure access and opportunity for the students of Silicon Valley to become economically mobile. And here at SVF, our vision is that every student becomes a productive adult. That may mean something different for you, something different for me, but we want to make sure that every student has the opportunity to be whatever they can be, want to be, and so that they can contribute to society and contribute to their community. So why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this initiative at SVF? We feel that it's important in the education space to confront issues of race and equity. We know that the education space is a place where kids come to talk about things, teachers come to talk about things, adults are interacting with impressionable minds. So we know that this is not something that we can put our head in the sand and ignore, that we want to confront those issues and have those conversations so that we can make a better place and a safer place for our students as they go on to become productive citizens. We want to make sure that all students of color in Silicon Valley have access and opportunity to success. And we feel that it's our responsibility as a nonprofit organization in the education space to respond to what's happening now in our community. So our outcome, we will know that we have been wildly successful when we can shift adult mindset and encourage courageous conversations. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Knight Foundation, for their generous donations so that we can have speakers, have books, have whatever is needed in order to encourage those courageous conversations that I hope are also creative, as well as our sponsor, the County of Santa Clara.
Hi, I'm Otto Lee, Santa Clara County Supervisor for District 3. We're excited and proud to join the Silicon Valley Education Foundation as a sponsor of this year's series to have important book conversations to talk about race and equity. We look forward to having you join us in listening to the many courageous and prominent speakers on this journey to seek greater change to improve our community. Thank you. Hi.
Thank you.
Hi.
All right, so what's happening today? We're going to talk about the second condition from Glenn Singleton's book, Courageous Conversations About Race, where we keep the spotlight on race, which can be a little uncomfortable for folks. So this is why we want to provide a safe space and an encouraging space for us to have this conversation. We have a wonderful keynote speaker tonight. I won't take away his thunder, but spreading his wisdom, sharing with us his growth and his journey. And so you're very much in for a treat there. We'll be breaking out into rooms so that you can have a little bit more of an intimate conversation. We have found that it is more conducive to be in a space where there's a fewer people. That way we can encourage everyone to participate. And then of course, there's always a challenge and call to action. While we enjoy spending time with you and we enjoy bringing speakers to you, we do hope that this has an impact, and we do expect that there'll be some change or some action on your part. So to engage in these courageous conversations, we have to think about these 4 agreements. This is what I'm going to agree to, and that what you're going to agree to, so that we can be in this space and continue to grow. And as V had mentioned when we first came on, please stay engaged. We have so many distractions at home. And there's times when the conversation may get a little too much for us or sensitive or touchy, and we want to withdraw. We encourage you to please try and stay engaged tonight in whatever way possible so that you can take that next step in having courageous conversations. We also want you to speak your truth. My lived experience and my truth is very different than anybody else's. So it's up to me to share my truth, to know that my truth is just as valued and valuable as anyone else's, but I also need to do that with respect. This sometimes can lead to some discomfort. It is uncomfortable talking about race at times. It could be uncomfortable talking about an experience that we've had, or uncomfortable saying to someone in your breakout room, wow, that really had this impact on me, or that didn't land right with me. But again, this is the place to grow in that discomfort and to try on new things, because we're wanting this group to be able to go out into our community to continue these courageous conversations. And expect and accept non-closure. One of the hardest things for me. Okay, are we all okay? Should we put a bow on it? You're all right, aren't you? Well, what was the solution to that? And we know that in these courageous conversations, there isn't closure all the time or most of the time. We need to sit and be okay with just the way that it is and know that people will reflect and people will ponder. So with that, I would like to introduce to you our wonderful Chief Officer of Programs, Ms. Denise Williams.
Thank you, Lisa. And again, welcome to all of you. And thank you for hanging out with us this evening. So the session that we finished up with in the spring was the first condition, and it was getting personal right here and now. Today, we're going to be discussing just briefly about the second condition, which is keeping the spotlight on race. And so when we keep the spotlight on race, it encourages us to isolate race while acknowledging the broader scope of diversity and the variety of factors that contribute to a racialized problem. This condition focuses on the critical need to address race explicitly and intentionally, which provides opportunity to deepen our understanding of race. Whether blatant or subtle, issues of race are foundational in public discourse, media, political campaigns, urban renewal, new school construction boundaries, and even textbook adoptions. And of course, a lot of other things in other industries. So consider your reaction to this following advertisement that you see on this screen. This was published in a number of nationally circulated periodicals. It's not a complex illustration, and there is no right or wrong reaction. But at the first glance, what racial stereotypes are exemplified? This is simply one tiny example of how pervasive race is embedded in society. So what I'd like you to do for this really brief activity is just to take a moment to show or think about how this advertisement resonates with you. So I'm going to ask us to participate in a very normal virtual thing, which would be going on to the chat. But this time when we go onto the chat, I don't want anyone to return until I give you the signal to return so we can see the waterfall effect. So what I'd like you to think about is how this advertisement, you see naughty and you see nice. And look at the various colors on these vehicles. So how does it make you feel? How does it resonate with you? And then I would like you to put it in the chat, but please do not push return until I give you the signal. So I'll give you a minute just to be reflective and then for you to go ahead and put something in the chat. So about 30 seconds. So when I get to on the count of 3, then I would like everyone to go ahead and push return and just notice how we see this waterfall effect. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. So if anyone would like to share something that's burning with them about this particular advertisement, feel free to either show your reaction and our folk in the back and let me know who that is, and you can unmute yourself. But I'd like to, it's interesting, this one of these is from Miss Camille. She said that she was caught off guard and then she didn't notice anything about it until and then when I mentioned the colors of the cars, and it makes her think that maybe sometimes she is missing things, you know, in particular advertisements. And you're so welcome, Camille. She's so thankful that sometimes you do need someone to point things out to you, and that's fine. That happens to me too. So did anyone else want to share anything? I'll look through these. If those colors are associated with positive and negative connotations. Lucy mentioned they're already labeling the colors as naughty for Black and nice for white. Someone else says systemic racism. Good comments. Very offensive. Yes, Joanne, just to this is being recorded. Someone appreciated the question marks behind the labels there. All right, so that's some wait time. I thought maybe someone would like to come and speak out on it, but if not, thank you for your time for that little icebreaker, just to get us thinking about how that conversation and how pervasive race can be at times, and how we do have to isolate it to go deeper and have these conversations. So I believe that I am also going to next introduce our keynote speaker. So presenting Dr. Marck Abraham, CEO of MEA Consulting Services. And as he goes through his presentation, I'm sure he will be sharing more of what all that means. But he is the founder, and he designed to help poorly performing schools and organizations increase achievement for all students, especially for young men of color. As a thought leader for men of color, author, and motivational speaker, Dr. Abraham has presented to various educational audiences and districts in New York and across the country. His most recent article, Culturally Proficient Leadership, Improving the High School Graduation Rate for Black Males, appeared in February issue of Principal Leadership. And he does have a book that couple lucky people will be able to get at the end of our session. So I would like to welcome, and please help me welcome Dr. Marck Abraham.
How are we doing, everybody from California? How's everybody doing? Hey, listen, this is Zoom, and I understand we on Zoom, but I'm gonna open this camera up so I can see you. So when I say how we doing, I need a wave, a thumbs up, something. Talk to me real quick. There we go, there we go. So listen, again, my name is Dr. Marck Abraham. I'm the president and CEO of MEA Consulting Services, LLC. We're one of the fastest growing consulting companies in the country. And what we do, like Ms. Denise said, is we specialize in training school leaders, school principals, school teachers, board members on how to increase student performance and graduation rates for young men of color. If you didn't know, we're gonna get into this. Black and brown males, they have the lowest reading levels and the lowest graduation rates in the country. And what I do is I go around the country and give people practical strategies on how to increase student performance. Now, she said one lucky person, two lucky people is gonna get this book right here. But I tell you, if you get on Amazon, you could be lucky too. If you don't win the raffle, you're just gonna pick one up. Everybody's gonna be lucky today. So, so now we're gonna try to roll this because I don't have access to this PowerPoint. So I'm gonna just ask if you go to the next one. So, family, have patience with me. You say, hey, we're family. I don't even know him. We're gonna be family by the end of this presentation, I promise. So, prior to becoming the president of MEA Consulting Services LLC, I was a high school principal in New York. I was a high school principal in Buffalo, New York. And I make that distinction because every time I go around and tell people I'm from New York, they want to tell me what borough their cousin is from. New York City and Buffalo is about 7 hours away in a drive. So it was Buffalo, New York that I was a principal. And I was a principal of the second largest urban district in the state of New York. I ran the biggest high school in the city of Buffalo. We had about 1,300 kids. And I was noted for taking a graduation rate of about 60% to 87%. But that graduation rate also include, as you can see in this picture, majority of Black and brown children. I took a graduation rate from 60% to 94% for Black males, one of the highest in the country. It was so phenomenal that New York State Department of Education came to the school and said, hey, we got to figure out what this brother is doing in his school. And they did a 2-day study on my school, which resulted in me being a model school for New York State Department of Education. I was featured in Southern Regional Educational Board. I have several articles in the National Association of Secondary School Principal magazine. As a CTE school, I was labeled a model school. And I'm the author now of the new book, What Success Looks Like, Increasing Graduation Rates for Young Men of Color. Now, in my presentation, you go to the next slide. In my presentation, you're gonna often hear me say things like Black and brown. And when I go around the country, people say, hey, why do you say Black and brown and you don't say African American? One of the main reasons why I do that is because when you talk about Black, that includes everyone from the Africana diaspora. So when you look at me, you might have a thought process to automatically say, he's African American. And that's not necessarily true. I'm Haitian descent. So even though I have a little bit of a Southern twang, and you might not know it, and I might come off and just look like an African American to you, my culture that I walk into the building is completely different. This is why I tell people, you know, don't make judgments on children based off of the color of their skin. No, go back. We're gonna go back. Don't make judgments off of no, yeah, well, there you go. Don't make judgments off of people just by the color of their skin. You want to get to know somebody, because also when we talk about our Latino community, you know, I learned being from Miami, originally from Miami, Florida, is that if I call someone Mexican that's Cuban, you might get cut. So I have to know all of the cultures that walk into my building. So I do want to say this. I am super proud and just like my heart is flooding. It's Thursday night. It's the weekend eve, and you folks are here talking about race in the evening time after work. And for all the educators who are just got back into school and working jobs and doing all the things you're doing, you're here right now. So give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a pat on the back, because that is not the norm. So go ahead and do that. I don't see nobody clapping for themselves. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Hey, family, I'm going to tell you, you're not just going to look at me like I'm entertaining. We're going to have a conversation. So just be honest with you. Do me a favor. If you have your phones, your smartphones, I'm about to open up this view. I want to see your phones. Put your phones in the air real quick. If you have a smartphone, put your phones in the air real quick. Let me see them. Let me see them. Turn the light on. Now wave them like you're just now joking. I want to connect with you because I think you're awesome. I think you're dope. So follow me right now on IG, LinkedIn, Twitter, and my email address. I want you to take a picture of this and I want you to follow me right now. And I say that because I might say something that inspires you, and you might want to tweet it out, or you might want to Facebook it out or Instagram it out. Just do me a favor. I do this all the time when I'm talking to people. Do me a favor. If you're going to take a picture of me, don't have me looking like looking crazy. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to take this picture real quick. There you go. If that's the picture I want to see, if you're going to put me on Instagram, because sometimes y'all tweet stuff on a doggone message on one of these performances or these speeches, and you have me looking crazy. So when you put my speech out, when you say, hey, Dr. Abraham said this and it was so impactful, this is the picture I want. Now that's the $1 million smile. So connect with me on social media. I want to stay connected with you because I think you're dope. I think you're awesome. Now, let me say this. I just got a later preliminary. Folks, I'm trilingual. I told you I'm Haitian. I speak English. I'm fluent in Creole, so shout out to any of my Caribbean people. And I'm really, really good in Ebonics. So if you need an interpreter at any time, let me know. You say, I don't know what it means to be dope. I don't know what it means to be, but you just let me know. Put it in the chat. So holla at me, okay? So I just want to know, I'm going to vacillate between those languages. So can we get to the next slide? I have a question for everyone that's in here. I do this in every presentation. I do this all around the country. Really quickly, I want to know, why are you here today? Why are you in this equity conversation, this conversation about Black children, this conversation about keeping race at the forefront of your mind? What is your reason for being in here? Why are you in education? What is your why? And that's important. So I'm gonna give you about 45 seconds. Can we do a minute? We do like, I want to see, I didn't even think about that, Miss Denise, that waterfall. She was like, let that waterfall. I was like, what's she talking about? And then I was like, oh, that's it. So listen, I want to hear your why. So please take give me about a minute. And I want to know your why, and I want you to put it down in the chat. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes. Miss Nguyen, can you help me out on time? Help me out, because I'm a talker. I go all day. Somebody just bought me a water, and I told them bring me water. They brought me a water halfway drunk. Ain't that nothing? This is out of control right now. Thank you. So let me give you about a minute and a half to give me your why real quick. I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds. You got about 30 more seconds to get your why in there. Wow. Whew. Listen, Silicon Valley, you guys got some phenomenal people up in this joint. I'm trying to tell you. I'm reading these whys. They really touching my heart. Wow. So we got about 15 more seconds. We come together in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Listen, I was in New York City and I started my countdown at 45 seconds. That was not good. So now I learned to start it off at 5 seconds. I was reading those whys and they are just heartfelt. Ms. Nguyen, can you pick a couple and read them out so that the group can hear them? Or somebody from the Silicon Valley family, can someone pick one out and read it out so we can kind of listen to what some people's whys are?
I can help you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go from top down, if that's okay. So Connor Day said, "I'm here to learn and discuss strategies to apply for supporting young people of colors in the arts." Um, I feel like that might not be the first one. And then we have Molly that says, "It's time to get uncomfortable and hear what is happening and learn what we can do about it."
Wow.
And Camille's shared, "I am white and have been colorblind. I'm here
Wow.
to learn and grow." Manny shared, "I think it's important to learn as much as possible, especially from the experts in their respective fields."
Wow. Let me do one more. You got one more? Let me get one more.
Okay. I have Jonathan. "I'm an Asian American and I have 4 kids born and raising up in this country that's increasingly want to see them as guests. I want to protect myself so I can help to equip them for this world."
Wow. Wow. Listen, folks, again, those are some really heartfelt whys. And again, I speak to people around this country, and those that I'm reading right now, some of them the most touching that I've read in a long time. And the significance of a why is, let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you my why if you don't mind, but the significance of a why allows you to go through the headaches that you're gonna have to go through when you are advocating for Black and brown children. Let me tell you that, when we talk about a spotlight on race, things are the way they are. Some theorists would say they're designed to be that way. That school and the educational system is a microcosm of the real world. It mirrors what the real world is actually experiencing. So when you go to try to challenge systems in the real world, you get pushback and you have issues, right? There's going to have some things that you're going to go through that people are going to say, "I agree with it," or "Don't say that," or "We can't say that." And we see that happening oftentimes in, if any educators in here, you see that oftentimes happen in the teachers' lounge. I tell all new teachers, I train teachers, I say, new teachers, hey, stay out the teachers' lounge, because I'm not about to train you and you go in that teachers' lounge and they mess with your brain for the next year, and then now I got to keep deconstructing what they put on the inside of you. So you hear those things that happen in those different places. So let me tell you why I'm here and why I got an education. Again, I'm from Miami, Florida, and when I was growing up, I had 2 best friends that I grew up with. Their name was Tyvon and Steven. And me and my homeboys, we did everything together. I mean, we hollered at girls together. That means we try to talk to girls. We used to play this game. We were real poor. We used to play this game called That's My Car. Any poor people ever played That's My Car growing up? When you see a car drive, I say, "That's my car, right?" You remember that game? We played football together. We played basketball together. And Steve We went to Apollo Middle School. Steve broke all the records in middle school. I mean, he was great. He used to do all these tricks with basketball and all these things. And I played football too. I wasn't that good. Even though I was big, I was kind of clumsy, and I just wasn't the best football player. And we went to elementary school together, went to middle school together. In high school, we all went to 3 different high schools. The high school I went to, Deerfield Beach High School. Right when I walked on the campus, they looked at me. I was 6'4", 255 pounds at the time. They said, "Hey, boy, you're going to play Division I football. You're going to get a scholarship, and that's what you're going to do." After 4 years of high school, by the time I graduated, I had about 17 scholarships on the table. Well, you give me some of that, but that's serious. Now, there you go. There you go. All right. Tyvon and Steve, though, they went to 2 different type of high schools. They went to those high schools that were discipline first high schools. You know the high schools, if you look bad, they're gonna suspend you. You talk back, they suspend you. They suspension first high schools. And consequently, they got suspended over and over and over again, became disengaged from the educational process. I think by sophomore and junior year, they both were arrested. And by the age of 25, they both were killed and gone. I know experientially what happens to Black and brown children, especially males, when they don't get a high school diploma. So I've made it my life mission to do this work in spite of adversity, in spite of I tell you the results that I got in my high school. My first year as a high school principal, I got a vote of no confidence. It's a very difficult thing to be a principal and see your name in channel 247 and the Buffalo News, and you're just trying to advocate for children. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I wake up every single morning. That's why I go and push myself. That's why I travel around the country, because I believe viscerally that Black and brown males can graduate high school at 80, 90, and 100%. So that's my why. But my why is my fuel that drives me. I always tell leaders and teachers and school board members and parents, you got vision, you got mission. Vision is where you're going. Mission is how you get there. Your why is the fuel you use to get to that vision. It's the fuel you use to be able to do that mission to get to that vision. So you need to tap into your why every single day. And you don't have to qualify your why to anybody. Your why belongs to you. Make sense, family? Give me some head nods and some thumbs up if you're feeling me. You understand what I'm saying? All right, so let's get to the next slide. There we go. So we're gonna do 3 different things today. We're gonna talk about one of the biggest issues that stop schools from being successful. Folks, when we talk about racism and we talk about racism as a construct, it is a very, very, very difficult construct to define and to break down. Oftentimes we talk about racism, there's so many different definitions of racism. I guarantee you, if I ask each and every one of you, like, what's racism? As many people's on here, you're gonna get 30 different answers. Well, racism is when you hate Black people. Racism when you don't like Asian people, and we don't understand that racism is a construct within itself. There's discrimination, there's bigotry, and there's racism. There's all of these different layers. We don't have the time in this session, but listen, holler at me. I'll come back and talk to y'all about it. But there's so many different constructs of racism, and you have to break that down for you to really understand it. But when you talk about, as a practitioner and the work I do, trying to move the needle, if you're a school leader, a school teacher trying to move the needle, oftentimes what you have to understand is there's going to be some steps that you're going to have to take, understanding that race is an issue, but there's some practical things that you can put in place that I guarantee you, if you put it in place, you're going to have success. So when we talk about one of the biggest issues that schools are facing, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need some answers. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you real quick. And I'm gonna need to get you some answers, and then I'm gonna give you the 6 steps. There's 10 steps, but I'm gonna give you 6 for the sake of time. And Ms. Nguyen, let me know how we're doing on time. I know I only got 45 minutes. Where am I at on time? I'm doing pretty good. How much time I got left? You're on mute.
You have until 6 p.m. our time, so plenty of time.
Oh, okay, I thought we were doing 45 minutes, but let's go. Let's go to the next one. So, one of the biggest problems that prevent schools from being successful is Black and brown males' low performance rates. You go to the next slide. Black males are graduating high school 21 percentage points lower than their white male counterparts. National average for Black males and brown males graduation rate is about 59%. For their white counterparts is about 81%. Black males and brown males are referred to special education 3 times higher than any other population in the country. And they're suspended 3 times higher. Oftentimes, they're suspended for very subjective reasons. When I was a high school principal, I had my Black males would do the same thing as my white males, but my Black males will always get called to the office. And you say, hey, why is that happening? I used to have this white kid, he was bald, he had tattoos on his neck. He'd walk around the hallway all day. Teachers wouldn't say nothing to him. They said, we're afraid of him. But anytime they saw a Black kid, even if they had a pass, they would start to harass them and send them up to the office. Again, same issues, but what attracted them was the color of the skin. Black males, again, have the lowest populations in the country, lowest graduation rates in the country. Let's go to the next slide. The research shows us that as Black males or brown males are going through school, and I can show this to you, they actually lose their motivation as they're going through school. There was a study that said that when Black and brown children are actually going through school, they come to school excited. They come to school fired up. They come to school bright-eyed. This is what I want to do. I'm excited to learn. But as they go through school, the research shows they actually lose their light. They lose their excitement, because what the research says is that they are encountered with very hostile environments to say, hey, we want to, get you out of your thought process. So for an example, we're trying to say, hey, listen, we care more about your dress and more about how you look and wearing a hoodie than what you're actually thinking about. We care more about your pants sagging than you actually know how to take the test. We care more about trying to get a 13 and 12-year-old to code switch, which is like, when you get to this school, I don't want you talking like that. I don't want you sounding like that. I don't want you listening to this certain type of music, versus did they do their homework at night? So Black and brown males, what the research shows is that they are encountered with very hostile learning environments. We'll go to the next slide. So why is this significant? It's significant because if we're ever going to move our schools, if we're ever going to have success in our schools, you have to deal with the subpopulation. We're only as strong as our weakest link. If that subpopulation isn't moving, you're never going to have the success that you're looking for. Again, I talk as a practitioner. I talk as somebody that helps you go in, find the issue, address the issue, give you results, fix the issue so that you can move forward. But if you don't deal with this subpopulation, your ENL students, I don't know if do y'all call them ENLs or ESL students? What do y'all call them in California? Is it ENL? Yeah. Yep. Yes, no?
English learners.
ENL, right?
Or LTELs, there's a couple different.
Okay, so if you don't address those issues, if you don't look at that data, then you're never going to have a high performance school. So this is why we are actually addressing these issues, because I always hear when I'm talking about this, you hear people say, well, what about the white kids, or what about the girls? Well, the data does not suggest that that's the problem. The data suggests around the country, those populations are going to perform on par with everyone else. In most schools, when you talk about what the issues are, you got to deal with those Black and brown males. We'll go to the next slide. So here are the 6 steps. There's 10 steps, but I'm gonna give you 6 today. Number 1, love and data. If you want to create a successful school, because some of you folks said, hey, I want to learn how to create a successful classroom. I want to learn how to create a successful school. Here are the steps. Now, I will say, I know this is being recorded. I know this is Zoom, but a small pencil is better than a long memory. So what am I saying? Write some of this stuff down. That's how your brain processes information. You're seeing it and you're listening to me, but write it down so that you can create a successful school or a successful environment in your own personal life. So number one, love and data. Number two, want to create success for Black and brown children, you have to set high realistic goals. Number three, if you want to create success, you got to create a new narrative. Number four, hold yourself accountable. Number five, celebrate everything. And number six, mental health is key. You got that? So let's go on to the next slide. I have a question. Usually in my presentations, when I'm doing this presentation, I get down on my knee and I say, will you do this? Not joking, I never get on my knee, but I do have the picture here. The question is, we go to the next slide. The question I have for everyone today is, are we committed as community members, politicians, and school leaders to make our schools and to make our districts what success looks like district? Are we committed to making sure that all of our students, especially our Black and brown children, have a high quality education? I need to know that. I need to see by a show of hands. I got to know who I have in the room right now. By show of hands, let me see. Thumbs up. All right. Ms. Roberts she put 2 hands up. I like it. There you go, Ms. Roberts. There we go. All right. So we're committed to it. Now, let's get to the question. Let me tell you something. Oftentimes I hear people do great motivational speeches. And I believe motivation without information and proper application leads to frustration. If you get motivated and you don't have information and you don't know how to properly apply it, you get excited, you say, whoo, that was a riveting speech. Whoo, I felt good. I'm excited. All you got to do is love kids and bam, you're gonna have success. And then you go try that and then it don't work and then now you're frustrated. So it's so important that I don't just motivate you, but I also give you information. How do you properly apply it so that you can now have success in your building? But we also just raise our hand and say, we're all committed to this. We're all excited about this. So now we got to do the work. Ms. Gwen, we get to the next couple slides. We can go to the next one. So let's get started. Let's get the party started. Step number one, we're talking about love and data. We go to the next one. So when you talk about, you talk about creating a culture of love. My lights went out in here. I'm in a college classroom, and so the lights, I don't think they paid the light bill in here. When you talk about creating a culture of love, it is important, and the research shows us that it's important that we create caring cultures that hold Black and brown children accountable. Caring, building relationships, being persistent, being present, communicating, and modeling culturally responsive leadership. When Black males have teachers that believe in them and have teachers that hold them accountable, Black males demonstrate higher academic success. I say hold them accountable because oftentimes when we think about love, we have the propensity or the thought process to say love lowers the standard. Love raises the bar. I tell folks this, if you love me, you don't lower the bar on me. You don't walk up to me and say, oh, little Tyrone, I know your daddy isn't around and I know that you're in poverty. I'm gonna just pat you on your head and it's okay that you don't do your homework. It's okay that you don't. Listen, if you do that, that means you hate little Tyrone. Love means I'm gonna raise the bar. Love means I'm gonna hold you accountable. Love means I understand you got situations at home, but I'm gonna love you to success because I believe in you. So when we talk about how to create a successful culture, you gotta create a culture of love. You gotta create a culture where you're building relationships with kids. And you want to, and we get to the next slide. We talk about when I was a high school principal, as simple as when kids are walking in the building, you say good morning to every one of your kids that walk through the building. That is a very simple concept, but you couldn't imagine when you go through certain schools, it is 90 degrees in California. And you walk into the school, it feels like it's 10 below. They feel like they're in Buffalo, New York. It's cold, ice cold. People don't talk to each other. People don't say hello. So as teachers, it's important, as principals, it's important to just say hello to kids. How you doing? What's going on with your life? I give you an example. I had a kid that he was, I came into work a little late that day because I usually, when I was a principal, I would stand at the door. I would greet all the kids when they walk in. And I had this one kid that the morning he came in, he walked around the building. He must have cussed everybody out. He cussed everybody out. And they said, Dr. Abraham, we need your help. This kid cussing everybody out. We don't know what to do with him. And when I seen him, he walked into my office. Instead of me saying, man, what you doing? I gave him a hug. This pre-COVID. I gave him a hug and he broke down and started crying. And he told me he was so frustrated because he had to sleep in a cold building because his mama kicked him out the house because she had a boyfriend that was beating on her, and he intervened, and the mama picked the boyfriend over the son and kicked him out. So he had to sleep in an abandoned building that day. See, love is about building relationships. Love is about saying, I care about you and I want to figure out what the issues are. So in a school, for you to have a school that's loving, for you to have a school that's caring, 4 things you need to do. All students and staff need to know that they're important. Diversity should be celebrated, not tolerated. Number 3, you have to create a culture in a school that's fun, that's exciting, that make kids want to come to school. You always hear people saying things like, oh man, the kids just don't want to come to school. Our attendance is bad. We don't know how to increase attendance. Do we need to do detention? Do we need to do punitive things? No, you got to make sure that your school is engaging, your school is fun, where they're excited about wanting to come to school. Does that make sense for people? Does nodding here make sense? Okay, cool. Last thing is, every student needs to have someone in the building. You have to put systems in place where you can track all of your students, and every student has someone, a school counselor, a teacher. You build it right into your teacher schedules. Or if you're a teacher, you create some type of system that you check in with your kids, even in COVID, right? Like this, they say research shows that the suicide ideation has increased so much during COVID. Kids felt disconnected. They felt disconnected from the teachers. They felt disconnected from the community. So even in spite of COVID, it is so important that you have conversations with kids, that you walk up to a kid and ask them how they're doing, that you say, hey, this is how you email me, that you understand that, hey, I want you to know that I care about you as a person and I believe in you as a person. All right. Number 2, well, number 1, but 1A, 1B. You have to know your data. Ms. McGuinn, we go to the next one. You got to know your data. Oftentimes, when I go into schools and I ask a principal, I say, or I ask teachers, I say, hey, do you know your data? Most people can tell you their graduation rates. Most people say, hey, this is our graduation rate. This is where we're at. But what they can't tell you is what's their graduation rates for the last 3 years? What's their referral rates? How do their kids perform, especially their Black and brown children, how they're performing on state exams? How is their attendance? What's their course passing data? Listen, teacher, administrator, if you're here, the question I have for you is, what's your attendance? How often do you miss school and miss work? How often do you come in late, right? Because we can't be that parent that says, do as I say, not as I do. So when you're trying to create a successful school, when you're breaking down the school, it's important that you know your data, but you know a robust amount of data, not just from a singular year, but over a 3-year trajectory. Now, with COVID, it causes a little bit of an issue because we don't have state assessments. Kids have been online. So the question is, what is our baseline data prior to COVID? And what is our data that we have now? But it's important that as school leaders, you say, and school teachers, you say, hey, I need to know the data of my kids. I need to know how my kids are walking into the school. I need to do some formative assessments to figure out how they're doing and where they are cognitively. All right. Now I'm going through this pretty fast. If you have questions, please put them in the chat so we can keep rolling. We can go to the next slide. Yes, I'm sorry. YMOC means young men of color. I apologize. When I was a high school principal, what we would do to make sure that we track data, this is an assessment tool. We would have our course passing data broken down by 5 weeks. So every 5 weeks, as a leader, you'll look at the data of your school and say, okay, how many kids do I have passing? What grade level are they at? What percentage are they in? And then what are the action steps I need to know how to track my students? Let me go to the next one. Second thing you have to do, you have to set high realistic goals. Your goals need to come from previous year data. So when you are a teacher or a school leader, you have to say, now folks, this is something that we know, we do this in our personal life. If I said, I'm in Buffalo and I'm trying to get to California, I got to first locate myself. That is, I got to know my data. And if I'm going to drive, I need to set a goal. How many states can I drive through on a daily basis so that I can get to California in X amount of days? So we know this practically, but when we get into the school, sometimes we just kind of say, I don't know what to do. So number one, you have to know your data. Well, number one, you got to love kids. 1B, you got to actually say, hey, what's my data? Number two, when you have your data, you got to set high realistic goals based off your data. Now, when you have your goals need to be clear, they need to be concise, they need to be realistic. You need to have goals that you can touch, taste, and feel. I want to be a better teacher this year. What does that mean? I want to be a better parent this year. What does that mean? You have to be able to quantify your goals and say, hey, this is the goal I have for my school. This is where I want to go. And then it has to derive from previous year data. It has to address all of the academic needs. And then you have to talk about it with everybody. When you talk about your data, when you talk about your goals, you have to let everyone know what your goals are. So if you're a school principal, when you're setting your goals, they should be realistic. I was working with a school out in, where were they? Out in Atlanta. And I told them to set goals, and they came back with me with some goals. Now, mind you, this was a failing school. Their graduation rate is about 40%. And they said for this year, they want their graduation to be 85%. Folks, let me say this to you. That is not realistic. If you jump 45 points in a school year, what's going to happen is you're not going to get flowers. You're going to get the feds in your school. They're going to say, hey, what kind of illegal business are they getting into? If you set goals, they need to be realistic. You need to be able to say, hey, this is where we are. They need to be incremental. And you need to be able to say, we're going to move on the methodical. Again, same thing we do with our bodies, right? If you said, hey, I'm about to lose 75 pounds in a month, somebody say you're going to kill yourself, right? And then you're going to get frustrated. And you're going to say, I quit. Right. So what you want to do is you want to say, OK, I want to lose 2 pounds. I want to lose 3 pounds. And then that's how you set a goal. So you got to know where you're at. And then you got to set the goal. And it has to be high, but it has to be realistic. It has to be high because it's going to challenge you, realistic so that you can accomplish it. All right. Number 3. So here's an example. So let me give you an example. So when I turned the school around and took it to 60% to 87%, we have something called Regents exams in our school. And if you look at those goals, they don't look that high. But the reality is those goals were based off of the data, right? So we had a geometry score for a Regents exam, and we were constantly getting about 50%. But I said, well, hey, listen, if we did 50% without any effort, then we could do 58%. And what happened, so in New York, for kids to actually graduate, they got to get these Regents exams. I think it's the same way in California. They got to pass these Regents exams. But what you want to do is you want to set a goal, and then you're setting goals by subpopulations, right? If you break down your school and say, hey, these kids were performing here, then the question is, if you set a goal on it, how can we get them a little bit higher? And when you set goals, when I say you have to talk about them throughout the whole school, these goals were in the teachers' bathrooms. So you went to go use the bathroom, they was looking at you right in your face. We talked about them at every faculty meeting. We talked about them every morning when I did the morning announcements. They were talked about in every faculty meeting. And every time I had a meeting with a teacher, I said, what's your goal and how far are you away from it? Now, for a teacher, you set your goal and say, hey, listen, I want 90% of my kids to pass my class. You need to have those conversations with your students and say, listen, I want 90% of y'all to pass the class. I don't know which 90, but you better be part of that 90. If you're a parent and you're watching this, you set goals for your child, you look your baby in the face and say, listen, last year you had an 85%. This year, I want 87%. I could do 87%. And then you talk and you advocate for your child. So as a parent, you look your child and say, hey, little Johnny, I want 87%. And this is the goal for algebra, whatever class they're in. And then you communicate with the teacher, say, hey, Miss, whatever her name is, or Mr., whatever his name is, I want my child to get an 87%. What do we need to do for that to happen? All right. So when you have goals, you make them high, you make them realistic, but then you bring everybody into the conversation so that we're all on the same page to know where we're going. All right. Cool. We go to the next slide. And that's just another example of goals. What I saw was that once I started to put goals on the wall and started to tell people this is where we're going, we started to accomplish our goals. We started to have success. Now, it came with pushback. I'm not gonna lie to you. Change is difficult. So people got frustrated, they got irritated. It came with pushback, but we end up accomplishing all of our goals and getting to what we need to get to. Make sense? All right. Number 3, when you talk about creating success for Black and brown children, oftentimes for children that are in poverty, children that are Black and brown, that are marginalized, I told you that they're referred to special education 3 times higher than any other population in the country. The school experience for them is one that's hostile. So what does that do to your paradigm? That makes you think that you're not successful. Think about it. If I always have failure in school, my paradigm is that I'm not successful. So as the adults in the building, let me look at this because I don't know how y'all looking at me. As the adults in the building, it's important for us to challenge negative self-talk, but challenge the paradigm of the young people that we have in front of our class. So most schools, if they're failing, or most situations where you have failing schools and failing kids, there is a narrative that says they're not successful. So do me a favor. How many people do we have in schools real quick? Any school teachers, anybody in here? Just raise your hand real quick. I can't see most people, they got the cameras off. All right, so if you're in a school, just put in the chat, I'm in a school, I work in a school, just yes really quickly. If you work in a school, just hit yes real quick. All right, yep, 2, 3, all right. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you at a highly successful school or are you at a failing school? And I just want you to think about this. What is the narrative of the school that you're at? What do people say about your school? Because we talk about data, there's 2 data sets. There's qualitative and there's quantitative. Quantitative is what we talked about in the beginning when we talk about the numbers. Qualitative is about the voices of the people. What do you say about the school that you're at? Do you say that this school really deals with race issues? Do you say that your school cares about the success of all your kids? What is the narrative about your school? I'm gonna give you about a minute and a half to kind of think about that. Ms. Nguyen, how are we doing on time? I don't know. My time is off a little bit. Where we at?
We are about 15 minutes.
I got 15 minutes? Okay. Now they said this is a safe space, right? So, oh no, this is not a safe space. The breakout group's a safe space. My bad. Listen, don't put it in there now. I don't want to get you jammed up, right? You get in there, your superintendent's like, oh, he thinks this about my school. So listen, when I was a principal and I took over, my school was labeled, the people, you walk around the school, you talk to people, they say, hey, we're a middle of the road school. Well, we're not the best. You know, we had 60% graduation rate, but we were resting on the laurels of what we used to do in the past. And people say, hey, we're not the best. We're not the worst. We're like middle of the road school. I hated hearing that with so much passion. You don't see me, but I got this big championship ring on. I'm very competitive, right? And I hate losing. And I'm not a part of the participation trophy generation. I hate that. I hate that, you know, middle of the road, it's okay, come in and be bland. I don't like that at all. So getting that qualitative data and listening to people, I said, hey, what I have to do is I have to change the narrative. I said, no longer are we going to be a middle of the road school. No longer are we going to be a failing school. I said, now the title of our school is that we're going to be the best school in the land, often imitated, never duplicated. And I would say that every single day. Now, mind you, we were having fights in the middle of the school and the news was there and they would put me on camera and put the microphone in front of my face. And they'll say, well, Dr. Abraham, what do you think about the fights that just broke out? And I'll get on the microphone and I'll tap it just to make sure they heard me. And I said, I just want to start off by saying we're the best school in the land. And then I will address the fight. When you are a leader and you're trying to change something, you're going to have to change the thought process and the narrative. You got to change the voices of people and what they say about the school. I did this presentation out in, I think I was out at New York City, and the commissioner of education said, Dr. Abraham, Mr. Nguyen, you can take me to the next slide. He said, Dr. Abraham, when you said that we changed the narrative of the school, when you said that we started to call the school the best school in the land, how many people did you have with you? Did you have the administrative staff? Did you have 5, 6? What did it start with? I said I had 3. Me, myself, and I. It was 3 people it was just me, one person that started to change the conversation with the narrative. So if you are in a school that you think is a failing school, if you run a classroom that they say that's a bad classroom, whatever it is, change the narrative. One of the best things that COVID provided for us is the kids are walking back into a clean slate. Think about that. They ain't been in school for a year and a half, 2 years. They're walking back into a school that says, hey, you can get this. Kids believe in the Tooth Fairy, Superman, the Hulk. They believe in all of these fictional characters. You telling me they can't believe that their school is the best school in the land? You telling me they can't believe that they're intelligent and they're bright? See, the question is, can they believe it? No, they can believe because they believe in the Tooth Fairy. The question is, do the adults believe that about them? So we talk about equity and keeping the spotlight on race. The real question is, what do you believe about the kids that you serve? Do you believe they're bright? Do you believe they're intelligent? Do you believe they could do anything? Do you create a culture that says, I believe the best in you? Because if we believe it as adults, they'll believe it also. So this is your year, 2021, 22 school year, to say, hey, listen, young person, you are brilliant. And then you hold the standard and don't let them vacillate. Good God Almighty. Second thing, the thing I would do after that, one thing I did after that was, you go to the next slide. I would have my kids say a pledge every single day. Now, mind you, this is high school. The kids thought it was corny. They were like, man, this is whack. And then so what I just kept forcing the issue. Folks, if you are, we talk about race, and I don't want you to just like talk about race and to just say, hey, oh man, it's so bad for Black kids. Oh man, it's so bad for poor kids. Oh man, this is bad. This is horrible. Okay, we know it's bad. What are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do to help them be successful? Now that you know there's a problem, now you gotta put something in action. So, okay, yeah, the Latino kids are struggling. Yeah, they're not doing, okay, we got that. Now what? I would have them challenge their paradigm. So every day, twice a day, imagine this. Anybody know what self-talk is? Negative self-talk? Raise your hand. Let me just see real quick. Negative self-talk. If you know what negative self-talk is, raise your hand. Nobody. All right, so let me help you. Negative self-talk psychologically is, it's the negative things you tell yourself before you do something. So if you have a kid that's in poverty, that's in special ed, that is getting suspended, and there's a section that I talk about suspension is not the answer. What happens is when a kid gets suspended, they become disengaged from the school community. They're always getting kicked out. What do you think their self-talk is about being in school? It's negative, because they don't have anything to pull from. Their self-talk is, man, school ain't for me. Man, this not for me. I'm just not good at it. I'm gonna take the test. I know I'm gonna fail. I would have my kids say this every single day, and I made it a big thing. I would tell them, listen, hey, at our school, we're the best school in the land. We're the best because we have the best students, the best teachers, the best admin staff. And then I made it personal for them. They said, I'm the best because I believe I'm the best. I work hard every day to compete to be my best. I work hard in school. I work hard in class. I give 100% to everything I do. I always win. I am a whatever it is your school is, right? They would say that every single day, twice a day for 180 days. What does that do? We're giving them a thought process. We're telling them how to think. School is not just ELA, math, history, science. It's about socialization also. It's about helping you change your paradigm, but that's incumbent on the adults. Let's get to the next slide. A cool story, while we're going to the next slide, is my kids had a drill team, and they never drilled before. They had these girls, they were drilling, they were practicing, and they were going to one of the biggest drill meets in the city. They call it Buffalo Drill-A-Rama. And I asked them before they went to go drill, I said, listen, and they wasn't, I don't even think they were good. I don't even know what they were doing. They just their first year. And I asked them before they got on the bus, I said, how y'all gonna do? Young lady turned around without thinking. She said, Dr. Abraham, we always win. I said, yo, that's what I'm talking about. Why? Because the players got on the inside of them. So where they get that from? They got that from the person who's a leader to lead them. Is it challenging? Yes. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Yes. When the kids looking at you and they don't want to say it, yes. But if you make it cool and you make it fun and you make it exciting, I promise you they'll get on board. All right. So next thing is we have to hold ourselves accountable. We got to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold our students accountable. It is not okay. I used to have a coach, a football coach, to say, nobody wants sympathy. It's between, I can't say that because we recorded, but nobody wants sympathy. Be empathetic. That means I can see things from your eyes, but I'm going to hold you accountable, because when our children leave us, when our students leave us, there's going to be nobody that, gives them this pat on the back, right? Nobody's going to ask, well, your dad wasn't there? Okay, I feel bad for you. They're going to say, can you do the job? You can't do the job, you're going to get fired, right? Like you go to college and you're talking to somebody who's illiterate coming out of high school, talking to somebody who had a 1.4 GPA coming out at my first year in college. Nobody felt sorry for me. So if you lower the bar, and I'm just going to say this before I get to point 5, if you lower the bar, that means you hate kids. Do not fall in the trap of I'm gonna make it so easy for you. I'm gonna make it so easy for you that anybody can do it. No, you understand where they are. You work with them in their literacy skills. You say, hey, this is where we're going. I believe in you, so you can do this. You can't tell me this kid who's playing Little League football can remember 85 plays while somebody's trying to tackle them, but they can't remember 2 + 2. You a liar and your breath stinks. You don't tell me that. They can do that. It's just you don't believe they can do it. You the problem. All right, let's get to point 5 and then we can let you go. I'm sorry. Courageous conversations. All right, listen. It is important that you celebrate the successes of your school. You got to celebrate them. When you come back to school, do you celebrate the kid's birthday? You have to celebrate what you want to see, right? Like merit roll, honor roll. You know, I walk around failing schools, and in failing schools, oftentimes there's a thought process is, well, we just got to feed them and keep them safe. If we didn't have no fights today, we was good. What? That's your standard? Like you got to celebrate what you want to see. Like, do you celebrate high academic success? Do you see top 10 students on the wall in your school? Do you see that kids are being celebrated for going to college? We'll celebrate, and this is one of the most racist things, and I have an issue with this, and I'm struck with time, but we'll celebrate football more than we'll celebrate a scholarship for academics. So I had an urban school in my district that says, hey, kids can't come back for COVID. They can't come back, it's not safe, but they can play basketball and football. It ain't safe for us to learn, but it's okay for you to entertain us. When you talk about the issues that COVID has had with racism, you know, COVID exasperated racism and exasperated the issues that we have in our community because our suburban schools were able to figure it out. Hell, Walmart figured it out. They didn't have no time to adjust. They went straight into a pandemic. Okay, all these people have high school diplomas. We got the most educated people in one system and we can't figure out how to bring kids back into school safely and wear masks and keep them distant. It's only acceptable in urban schools. Nevertheless, celebrate everything in the building. You got to pack them up and say, man, I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you're here today. A kid likes that, especially our Black and brown children, they build on relationships. That's how they thrive. They thrive in relationships. They thrive when they say, hey, I know you care about me. That's why gangs are so impactful, because they build a brotherhood in a community. They got them doing illegal stuff, but they have them doing a community and say, I care, I'm your brother, I got your back, dog. So do you create that culture in your school? Do you create that culture in your community? That's incumbent, again, on the adults to do that. And then you got the teachers. You got to celebrate each other. The work that I'm telling you to do is hard. It is hard work. It's not easy. But you got to celebrate each other and say, hey, I care about you, teacher. Administrators got to create a culture. If any principals listen to this, you got to create a culture to say, hey, I care about my teachers. I value my teachers. I appreciate my teachers. If you have teachers that are chronically absent, I work for some bad principals before. I took every sick day, every holiday, every smoke break, and I ain't even smoked. I took every break I could to just get out the building. It was horrible, right? You got to take every opportunity to leave when you got a horrible culture. It's important that we create a culture of love and create a culture of energy and a culture of excitement. Last thing, number 6. Mental health is key. Family, listen, I love you guys. You guys are here. You're taking your time. You gotta put the oxygen mask on your face first. You got to take care of yourself. You know, I hear principals, I hear teachers say, I just work all day. I take work home. I work 12-hour days, 15-hour days. Baby, you're not getting nothing done. It's a certain point that your brain is just gonna disengage. Mentally, you're gonna be fatigued. And what happens is you get sick. I know. There were some times where I knew I had to take a break and I wouldn't take a break and the universe just shut me down. And it does not make it benefit. There's no badge of honor. I had this principal tell me, man, I'm in the school all day and I got hives and I'm just breaking out. I'm just trying to turn the school around. I was presenting about 500 people. I stopped the presentation. I said, boy, time out. Let me tell you something. First of all, if you die, they will write your job will be on Indeed before your obituary is written. They had your job posted and filled before you even in the grave. And then who got to suffer? Your kids got to suffer, your wife got to suffer. Relationships are going bad. I believe in turning schools around. This is what I do, and I'm really good at it. I believe in helping people be successful, but you got to take care of you first. Because if you're not good as a parent, if you're not good as an educator, you can't be good to nobody else. Let's get to the next slide. I want that to sit in your spirit, family. I want that to sit in your spirit. Now listen, if you didn't add me on IG, shame on you. If you didn't add me on LinkedIn, shame on you. No, I'm joking. But this is how you get in contact with me. I'm proud to say we sold over 400 books in the first month of this book being out. It is a great read. It goes over 10 steps. It goes over my history. Pick this up. I know they're gonna raffle a few, but I want you to get it. If I said anything that's impactful to you, let me know. Put it in my inbox. If you slide in my inbox, just don't make it weird. Just don't inbox me at weird times. So thank you. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, I'm here. I guess we're doing question and answer. Did I go over an hour? Or am I good? Did I hit the hour, 45 minutes? What I do?
You're good, right on. And I would love to bring back our own Denise William to lead this fire chat. And guests, please put down any questions that you have for Dr. Abraham. And I know that I've been received some questions for you already. So let's get this fire chat started.
And
Can I say one more thing? Can you put that slide back up real quick? The last slide. I got a UR code. If everybody can take a picture of that UR code, I want to hear how I did. This is how I evaluate myself. I can't talk about data and don't believe it. If you can put your camera, your phone to the UR code, if possible, and just give me some feedback. I would love to hear how I did in your mind, and if there's anything else I can do to support you moving forward. Thank you. Sorry.
well, thank you for that lively and informational journey that you took us on. We're just have not a long time for questions, but I think a couple have been sent in, and we had a couple that we already had generated. So first one, Dr. Abraham, how did you overcome the resistance that you appear to have encountered?
Oh, that's a great question.
As brief as possible.
Right. I stayed to my system. I focused on my system because oftentimes I say, don't get distracted by the distractions. So when I'm in the news and you get flares and all these things going on, they're an opportunity for you to get distracted. So I focused on my data. I focused on the goals. I focused on where we were going. I took care of my mental health. I worked out every single day. I did my prayers and devotion, but I kept it focused on the work and not getting into the arguments and everything else that people try to distract you with.
Yeah. That's great. That sounds like a very good remedy. And all those pieces that you just mentioned are kind of critical in doing that work for sure. So you spoke to the notion of setting high standards as a culture of love. And at what point does setting high standards become burdensome and unrealistic to Black and Brown students?
I think if you're setting goals without previous data, then it's always going to be unrealistic. I think that when you're setting goals, those goals need to happen on previous year data. So if you know that without any work, without any attention, your Black and Brown children were reading at level ones, they're going to do that consistently because that's the norm in your building. So what you want to do is say, hey, listen, this year we're going to make a focus and they're going to read at level 1.5 and we're going to put all of our energy in moving them to 1.5. So it's saying, here's the baseline data, but now we're going to put a concerted effort to move them forward. So if you take leaps and bounds and you try to go and make these big jumps, then it's going to be burdensome. It's going to be unrealistic. The best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Let's see. Here's one. You mentioned celebrating top students. What is your perspective on celebrating progress of students, specifically at a school where you have a high graduation rate, but the numbers are lower within the subgroups?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I would have a merit roll honor roll assembly, We would also celebrate kids. When I say merit roll, honor roll assembly, 90% was honor roll, 85% to 89% on grade average was merit roll. But we would also celebrate like if you're doing better, what's those most improved, right? Like, because what we want to do is, as you see children doing better, you want to pat them on the back. You want to meet them where they're at, and then as they're doing better, you want to celebrate those successes. The last part of that is celebrate everything. So you want to find as many things to celebrate and celebrate the things that you want to see. Oftentimes we harp on, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, but we don't take the time to celebrate exactly what we want kids to do. Most kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? They're going to class, they're trying to give an effort. Oftentimes they fail because we don't celebrate that and say, hey, now we're going to celebrate every time our kids come to class on time. We're going to celebrate them sitting in the class and doing their work. And we're going to celebrate them on a big stage and say, hey, you're most improved. So you want to find as many opportunities to celebrate children, but in a school, you also want to create a culture of celebration. So that means school administration also has to celebrate their teacher of the month. I would do something where I would have the cheerleaders and the football team. First of all, the kids will pick the teacher of the month, and it was anonymous. And then every time we figured out who the teacher of the month was, we will make a big thing about it. We'll bring the football team, the cheerleaders in, and we'll cheer the teacher on, put it on social media. You want to cheer teachers on, because if you cheer teachers on, they want to cheer kids on. Sorry, I know that's a little winded, but I just had to get that out.
Yeah, but I hear you. So throughout your time as an educator, did you personally experience any situation when you faced racism as an educator, and how did you handle it? And you could just maybe share one isolated incident, because you probably have faced many. So what do you think?
I would say, yeah, but let me say this. I try to do process of elimination. And I try to, when I tell people, like, race is the hardest thing to address, right? It's the hardest thing to say, hey, this is racism. This is, because people are always gonna vacillate from that. Oh no, that wasn't racism. For me as an educator, I would look at it and say, all right, what's the root cause for this? And I try to do a process of elimination and evaluate myself. I mean, I can say I got a vote of no confidence. I was the first Black man to be a principal of a school. That was racism. But there are some other things that were in place because some of the people that were attacking me were also Black. So, we have what Dr. Woodson would call the miseducation of the Negro, where we have self-hate for one another, and that also has to be addressed. The research says, and this, that when you have urban schools, oftentimes that are Black educators, the kids are still producing the same results because of the paradigm shift. So it's so important not to just say, well, if you're Black or brown, you're the right person. No, you got to do the work internally so that you can help kids be successful. So.
Good answer. So last question. Who in your life who believed in you and inspired you to advocate for yourself and to help change your narrative?
Oh man, listen, that's a dope question. Who asked that question? Raise your hand. That was a good one. I had so many people though, so again, I played football, so I had so many football coaches that would put their arms around me. I had a lot of pastors. When you talk about your why, you talk about spirituality, I think that, this work that we do for kids, I make it very specific when I say that we have to create a culture of love, but that love culture has to come from a sense of I care and I love humanity. And when I say that to some educators, they get like, how you gonna love kids you don't even know? Yeah, see, that's your problem. You're ugly. No, I'm joking. But you want to make sure that you have a sense of spirituality to say, hey, I care about humanity. I care about a higher spiritual being. And when I do this work, it's a calling. It's not just a job. So the people that helped me as pastors, coaches, and it wasn't just one person. There's been a lot of different people to support me in my journey to get me to where I am now.
Mhm. And just wrapping this up right now, I guess, and I can sense from all your comments and your actions throughout your work that you probably had a structure in place for teachers or educators or whomever you were over to be able to have conversations around knowing that all students can be successful, because that's very important, and that teachers should have efficacy and have this belief, because if they don't have the belief, it'll never happen. And I think as we move forward with our work, and that's in any, I think not only in education, but even in industries, you go have these conversations. You have to believe in your employees that the work can be done and can be done with a very ethical and mindful way. So these conversations could go back and forth. You know, I know we have a lot of educators on the call, but we want to make sure that if you're not in education, whatever industry that you're in, that these concepts, these strategies can surely be used. And I think we will, as we move forward, we're getting ready to go in our breakout rooms, we'll be able to continue that conversation. But again, Dr. Abraham, thank you so much for sharing and spending your time with us this evening. I hope that you will hang around just a little bit longer and pop in and out if it's not too late. And there may be some more questions that may come up when you get to the breakout room. So take it away, V.
All right. Well, it is my honor to bring you back into what the book recommends us when it comes to the second the second condition of the courageous conversation. According to the book, the author says that isolating race while acknowledging the broader scope of diversity and the variety of factors that contribute to the racialized problem. Throughout the evening tonight, we heard about various external factors that specifically mentioned by Dr. Abraham, and how he was able to, I guess, change the narrative for his students. We would like to provide an opportunity for you to have this similar experience in the breakout room with your facilitator. So throughout the rest of the evening, my partner in crime, Valeria, are going to drop the Courageous Journal for you to make a copy. And if you were here with us in our previous session, this is a copy for you to keep. We don't ask you to share with us or anything like that. And if you would like to make more copies and share with other people, it's entirely up to you. But I would like to walk you through what is the expectations and what we're going to be doing for the next 20 minutes or so. So the first part of the Courageous Conversation Journal is that as facilitator, your facilitator will ask these questions in the breakout room. Why is it important to isolate race in the first place? Perhaps you join us and you could agree or disagree. And now is the time for you to share that opinion with your facilitator. The second thing that we would like for you to kind of, dive in and trying to, a lot of, Dr. Abraham talked a lot about data. We would love for you to look at a racial makeup of a sample school system as a data point. Now, you don't have to be an educator or somebody who works in education to really truly understand the data point. And again, this racial makeup is only a starting point for the conversations. And as a reminder, I always want you to put race as the center of the conversation. Should we isolate it or should we not, based on your experience? And at the end, after you look at the data, there are going to be some 3 questions, and these questions again are in your journal for you to read. And if you're not a part of an educational system or you're not an educator, we would love for you to bring the perspective of your own organizations or perhaps your own home as you're answering these questions in the breakout room. And throughout the evening, Dr. Abraham going to be popping in here and there. And if you didn't have the chance to give him any questions or ask him any questions directly, we hope that he will be able to answer you directly in a more quiet and private space then. So to guide our breakout room this evening, we have 4 different breakout rooms, and these are our facilitators. These are, again, our courageous conversations leaders of the evening. And if you have any questions, again, you can go back into the main room where I'll be here, and go ahead and kickstart the night. Valeria, open the breakout room.
Back now. Wow, it gives them a whole other minute. I'm sorry. Should have pressed it.
That's okay. The share out going to be super quick anyways. Yeah. It gives them time to say goodbye.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's a small group anyway, so. Let me know when everybody's back, please.
Okay, 10 more seconds.
And get ready.
2.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. And thank you so much for still staying with us. Hope you had some time to share your opinions within the breakout room. At the end of every breakout room, we would love to kind of provide, again, an opportunity for you to cross-share what you have discussed in your breakout room. Again, it's not a mandate. I just want to provide this opportunity for those who would like to share what they've learned from each breakout room. Anybody? And go ahead and unmute yourself.
We spent a little bit of time talking about the importance of systems and helping to support this, and that we really need everyone's voices pushing and cheerleading for racial equity for all of our kids, and that those lack of, when they have them, when the systems and everyone's pulling in the right direction, it can be really helpful, but when not, when they aren't there, it can be a little bit frustrating. Alma or Hong, do you want to add anything to that, or correct anything that I might have misspoken?
I think that it encapsulated it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Anybody else?
I did when Hung was when she was sharing how they were having equity talks at, I think you said 3 of the 4 schools, or something like that. And it was, why is it happening there and not at the others? And it just made me think of, a lot of times I feel people will say, like, if they don't experience or they don't see it, then they don't see it as a problem. But like, all you see is not all there is. Like, there's, you know, just because you're not being affected by it doesn't mean, you know, there's no one else, you know, it's the same case for everyone. So I thought, like, it reminded me of that when she was sharing, how I thought it's almost more important for the schools that, or places that aren't so affected by it, to still be educated in this department.
Don't you just want to go and visit that one school and invite them to just go and have a talk with Dr. Abraham and really tell them it's time for them to change their narrative? Yeah.
Time to zoom out.
Yep. Thank you so much for your feedback. I mean, And again, thank you so much for staying with us until now. Well, next, I would love for you to, I would love to introduce to you our own Rosemary Kamei. She is the Chief Development and Innovation Officer. At the end, toward the end of every sessions, she usually does the challenge to actions, and here she is.
Thank you so much, V. The reflection of isolating race activity, I found really something that you could always sort of either share or bring back from time to time. I think that from time to time, we also may want to consider our own affiliations, such as, the workplace, our religious institutions, other social entities, recreational places, and kind of look at what the racial composition is. I think that here in California or in the Bay Area, it may be different. I came from going to school in Wisconsin, and it was tremendously different. So if racial diversity exists, are tensions present due to race or racial differences? In what ways has this been addressed or not addressed? If little racial diversity exists, why is this the case? So I think that this is something that I'm hoping that you can take back with you and be your challenge to action. Next slide. So another challenge that I would like to leave with you is we are having a series of these conversations, and I challenge you to bring 5 more friends who may have a different perspective to the next session. It is going to be November 4th. You will be sent some information on it. It will be the 3rd condition, engaging multiple perspectives. And so there may be someone who you may want to say, hey, come join us and see what you think. We all know that people are in different spaces at different points, but this might be something that, feel free to invite someone else. So with that, I will send it back to V.
Thank you so much. And for those who are still not too hungry for the evening, there was a typo in there, but that's because that was a little quiz just to make sure that you're still engaged with us. Last but not least, we always end the sessions, semi-end the session with a survey. So Valeria, please help me drop the link in the chat for us. Every feedback we get at every session, we take it very, very seriously, because we want to be able to bring more guests and to be able to provide more space for our courageous conversations. So please take a few minutes to complete the survey. Meanwhile, for those who stay with us until now, my friend Valeria will going to launch the raffle of Dr. Abraham's book, What Success Look Like, while you're doing the survey. Go ahead and take us away.
Yep. I hope that you all were able to sign in, as that is your ticket to the raffle. If you haven't, I'll give you a quick sec to fill it out. It's right in the chat, right before the survey. So I'll give you a second before I share my wheel so I can try and get everyone's name in. And if you already filled it out, if you could just give me a thumbs up so that I know you're good to go.
And they have to be here in order to claim the book, right, Valeria?
That's right. Yes, you have to be here in order to claim it. Thank you to those who are sending in your responses. You're getting added right as we speak.
And later on, if you win the book, please privately chat to Valeria your email, your mailing address, and who you would like to dedicate the book to. Because it will be personally signed by Dr. Abraham to whoever you want to dedicate the book to. Again, your name, I mean, we have your name, but your email, your mailing address, and who do you want to dedicate the book to? Well, it is 1 minute before the clock hits 6:30 p.m. PST for us. So hit it.
Okay, let's go. Thank you to those who got it in. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you all see my colorful wheel? All right, we get two winners. So make sure that you unmute yourself if you are called upon. Ready?
Woo!
Hong Nguyen. Do we have Hong Nguyen in the room?
Right here. Thank you.
Awesome. First winner. Okay.
Go Hong. Woo, woo.
Next one. Oh,
Go Camille.
awesome. Well, thank you all so much for participating. That concludes our raffle.
And again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We hope you have a safe and warm evening. Tomorrow is Friday and the weekend is coming up. So we hope you have a great weekend coming up too. And we'll see you again in our next Courageous Conversation. And thank you so much for joining us again. Enjoy, have a great night, morning, afternoon, wherever you're locating. And see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.